All right, now let's head on to the markets. Willie Bong, right there. Will, I said it yesterday, and you said maybe not. Profit taking happened.
Yeah, leave those profit takers. You know, like I say, it's just temporary. You know, the market is like that. It's going to rebound soon. Watch and see.
Right.
We're going to start off with the bonds market. You know, we've seen some bearish movements as, you know, coming from last week's, you know, interest rate hike. The bond market opened yesterday, still on an active note. We saw some buying interest on the 2032, 2042, and 2036 papers there. Average yield dropped by about 1 basis point from 11.22% to 11.21%. A lot of buy interest there, you know, but relatively, you know, not much change in the average yield. Treasury bills started still same thing on very bearishness, very quiet there yesterday as there was little or no activity in the market amid the thin level of system liquidity. You know, as trading day progressed, we observed some mixed sentiments across the mid to long end of the curve with minimal trades consummated by the market close. Now, consequently, we saw closing rates remained unchanged there from opening levels. And despite the OMO maturity of about 65 billion naira scheduled to hit the system today, market players are expected to continue to trade cautiously. However, we saw some interest in long-term OMO maturities yesterday. Interest rates, however, remain mostly unchanged across the board. Outlook, we expect some activities in the market as a result of the FAC inflow. We expect to see interest on short-term bonds as well as treasury bills to continue to, you know, due to favorable upward trend in rates. Activities at the equities market, we're going to go straight to the equities market now, and we see that activities there yesterday was not, you know, as Ladi, as you mentioned, was a bit bearish, 0.58%. Profit takers, you know, MTN Nigeria. We were seeing people trying to take profit from MTN, you know, and down about 3% yesterday. It was 2.93%, I think, down. And then lost about 7 naira off his share price, 230 naira to close. But we're going to talk about that with the analyst right after the break.
Right after the break. Do stay with us. You're still watching Business Morning. We'll drill back on the markets after this break. All right, now we're still looking at the markets, and we have Will about to give us more information on how it closed yesterday.
Yes, as I was saying yesterday, the market was really down. We saw bearish trend, 53,772 points as well. We're still at the equities market, 28 trillion naira market capitalization, still locking that in. And the year-to-date and month-to-date gains are still in positive territory. Hopefully, that will continue for the rest of the year, hopefully. And then we saw volume and value. We saw huge jumps in that segment. Volume rose significantly. Value was off the charts. And then we saw deals. What the deals was not very didn't perform, you know, well as much as volume and value. But we saw sectors, consumer goods, industrial goods, and banking were down yesterday. Most of the tier 1 banks didn't do well. UBA was down, as well as GTCO. Now we saw consumer goods, Honeywell Flour was down. So many of them, you know, the big names were down in that counter. Industrial goods, Lafarge doing well there. That really brought that sector down. Insurance, AXA Mansard was a winner there. You actually lifted that market. And then we saw oil and gas. O did his thing there again, and you know, we saw a big block for the banking sector. We saw a big block of, you know, transactions going on in one of the banks, not a tier 1 bank, but we're going to bring in Phil Anegbe, research analyst, Cardinal Stone Securities, to give us more insight on that. Good morning, Phil.
Yeah, good morning, Will.
Now, we saw huge jumps. You know, it's good to have you too. We saw huge jumps in volume and value yesterday. Now, I'm thinking it's as a result of the block divestment in Union Bank. What's going on there? Could you give us a bit of, you know,
yesterday was a very historic day. We saw Titan Trust Bank actually execute its acquisition of Union Bank. I think it purchased about 93.4% of the bank in an off-market deal. And that transaction is the biggest acquisition deal we've seen in recent years. I think it's biggest in terms of size compared to what was paid for Dangote Flour in the not too distant or far away acquisition, and even dwarfed what NIPCO paid for Mobile NL shares. So it was a really remarkable day in the market. So what's expected now is that we may see some sort of tender offer for minority shares, given that the free float has really narrowed, right? And the tender offer may be executed at the off-market price that we saw yesterday of about 7 Naira, which is about 12% premium relative to where the stock closed yesterday. I think the price executed yesterday was also about 38% higher than the price in the market when the deal was first announced. So really historic day.
Okay, it was good to have that. Thanks for sharing that information. Now, we also saw that Flour Mills posted their full year 2021-2022 financial report yesterday. They have locked in the two. They're now a 1 trillion Naira revenue company. What's going on? Tell us what's going on with Flour Mills, especially their subsidiary Honeywell Flour didn't do so well. But tell us about Flour Mills' uptick in revenue.
Yeah, really interesting results for Flour Mill. It joined the league of companies with revenue in excess of 1 trillion, with its full year result that was announced. So decent revenue numbers, historical milestone. However, there were material margin pressures as expected because its cost, I think cost of goods sold was also over 1 trillion, and that more or less dragged margins across board. And the cost pressures came as a result of commodity price increases across the globe, particularly for commodities like raw sugar and wheat. You know, the company imports almost the entire wheat that they use in production. So that more or less dragged performance. And I think there was also material pressures from the finance expense leg. So those sort of actually dragged the performance from a margin standpoint. However, the company was able to manage a dividend of 2.15 Naira despite reporting a moderation in cost. And that dividend, I think, at market price is about it's close to a yield of about 5.7%.
So how do you? I'm going to just jump in there. How do you think Flour Mill is going to, manage costs? Cost of goods sold, cost of sales at this moment, and to probably drive.
I think that the company is moving in the right direction with its backward integration efforts. It's important to note that the animal feeds business reported expansion in margins, and that was because of backward integration. So what we think that the company needs to do is actually expand these backward integration efforts and more or less try to expedite some of the processes so that in the near to medium term, there will be a bit more stability in terms of its earnings going forward. So we think they're in the right direction. What they just need to do more or less is up the ante, basically.
Okay, so we saw the market sentiment report yesterday. Buy was about 10% and the money flow index was about 47.08% down. What are you expecting? What's your outlook for the rest of the week? Is it going to keep going down? Quick one.
Yeah, we think that we are likely to still see some sort of bearish sentiment, particularly in names that have rallied strongly before the MPC decision was made. So there are still a number of offers that are still hanging in those spaces. So that may continue to put downward pressure. But then there will still be bargain hunting opportunities in fundamentally sound stock. Because the sell-offs, what it does basically is to present entry opportunities for investors, particularly those who missed out on the first rally. Particularly in the banking name, see scope for material improvements in performance in the second half, given higher interest rates.
Okay. Thank you so much, Phil Anegbe, research analyst at Cardinal Stone Securities. Thank you for joining us on the program. And so, Ladi, that's all we have for the market. We are expecting a rebound. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Maybe the call is bargain hunters for today.
Yes.
All right, Will, thank you so much.